Hi, this is Kylie Koo. Welcome to my studio and welcome to my first video of 2020, and I'd like to wish you all a very happy new year. I hope it's a good one for all of you. So today I'm working on the first prompt for the new Facebook group, the Mixed Media Emporium with Nina Ribena and Kylie Koo, and today we're going to be making a collage masterboard. Now if you're not in the group, you're very welcome to join. There'll be a link below, and if you are in the group, then we look forward to seeing what you create, and I'll be leaving a link to Nina's video above and below. So I'm just going to run through the materials we'll be using. So I've got some offcuts here, some mixed media paper, some watercolour paper, I've got cardstock, you could even use printer paper. You can really use anything as that kind of base. I've got a cereal bar box here, and if I'm going to use this, I will go on and open it up fully to use it. So I start to open it here and then think, no, put it aside, don't get distracted. I've also got some sheets of deli paper, very small, quite thin, but I thought they might make a kind of substrate as well, and just a box that had some little cans of tonic water in it. So you need something to start as that kind of base. Also, what's needed is some type of glue, something as simple as a glue stick or some matte gel medium, or as I show here, matte medium, and I use mostly this, but you could also use Mod Podge or anything of that sort. I'll probably also use some scissors and an old plastic card just to scrape things down, and a paintbrush just to apply the matte medium. So in terms of collage papers, I'm just going to have a look at what I'm going to use, and I will probably also use a heat tool, but you can leave things to dry naturally. I have some book pages where I've just stamped things off, some deli paper. Whenever I do any sort of stamping or stenciling or have some paint left over, I just put it onto a journal page, deli paper. This was very thin tissue paper that had been in some sort of packaging. I've also got some nice coloured tissue paper that I got some various gifts in over the holiday season, so I might use some of that. And really, with a masterboard and with a collage masterboard like this, you can use anything. Small scraps, I've got from paper packs, maps, music pages, dictionary pages, napkins. I've even got a piece of kitchen towel that I'd used in my last project. I could use that, I could stick that down. Some old pieces of packaging. It was package material again, some drop sheets, really just a selection. I've just pulled things out. That was a piece that I think I originally did on the jelly plate and then added other things, paint on top. Then I've got my various pouches with more napkins, little scrap pieces, lots of things, old lottery tickets. So really, I can't emphasise enough that you can use anything at all. That's some paper that whiskey comes wrapped in. So, within the box it's wrapped in that. So I just keep that back as well. And here's more. Magazine page. So, magazines, newspapers, old telephone books. That was some tickets that I'd printed a while back. So I'm not entirely certain at this stage what I'm going to use, but we will just see. So the basics really are to have a substrate, to have some collage papers, and to have some glue of some sorts. So I'm now just going to clear away and I will get started. Now I'll probably put the rest of this on a faster speed, because I guess watching glue dry is a bit like watching paint dry. So here we go. Okay, so I've also got my cup of coffee and I've decided to start on this cereal box. So I'm just opening it out And what I'm going to do first of all is I'm just going to cut those edges off, and I'm just going to use my rotary trimmer to do that. Just put a mat underneath, so just using the trimmer and a ruler to cut those edges off. They were kind of perforated, I probably could have pulled them, but I'll maybe just get a neater line with this. So there's lots of things you can use masterboards for, and Nina and I will be showing you what we're going to do with them in the coming weeks. So I could do either side. I'm just going to do it on the side that has the kind of details of what's in the box kind of thing. Now sometimes, depending on how shiny the box is, if it's very glossy, I might give it a rub down with sandpaper, but I decided not to do that today. What I did do though was I put down a generous layer of the matte medium just to get myself started. I knew as I tore some paper up that might start to get a little bit tacky, and just grab the paper that little bit more easy. So I'm just using some dictionary pages just now. I'm going to get a good seal across the middle points because that middle section of the box is in fact also perforated. So depending on what I go on to do with this box, I would maybe tear it down there, but I might not. So I'm just making sure that I'm gluing it well in place just now. So I'm now just going to put down some small scraps of patterned paper. Either side would have done. This was one that was double-sided, but I quite like that kind of slightly darker side. Now the thing with this sort of masterboard is I'm really trying not to overthink it. You will see as I go on there's points where I maybe move things about a little bit, but you know, that's just sometimes something catches my eye and I think, oh, I'll move it a little bit. So these are now the kind of security envelopes, just the inside of them. I have a big stack of these, so those again were just little pieces left over, probably from another project, just into one of my boxes or one of my little folders that I keep my scraps in. So I'm trying here to get kind of uneven edges. I very much like uneven edges on things. It's nice to have a straight edge going down the outside where possible, but within the centre I tend not to have straight edges. But you know, this is the type of thing that you can really do it anyway. You could cut things out quite precisely, have lovely straight edges or whatever. It's really up to yourself how you like to work and the kind of effect you like to create. So what I'm trying to do here is very much just get down that first layer where I'm covering all that box up. Some of the colour showing through from the box underneath would have been fine to leave, but I've just decided to get a good coating down. So using some old map here, I always think it's quite interesting because you get the different colours. You know, the colours of the roads, the water, the land, so quite nice to use those. Again, some patterned paper. That one had some heart shapes cut in it. I could have taken the bit with the heart shapes and stuck it down. It would have added interest as well. So I chose that one because it's got the kind of zigzags on it. Again, I just thought that would add some interesting pattern and almost a bit of textured pattern to it as well. So most of it's covered now, just taking some smaller pieces and putting those in. I have created masterboards where I use tiny pieces. It's a great way for using up any scraps. But I started with some slightly bigger pieces today and now just filling in those little gaps. Where I use a paper, I will try and put it in different bits on the page so that it's not all one colour in one point. So this is an old bit of a drop sheet that I've picked up, and I noticed on this particular bit there's obviously a bit of bubble wrap stamping or something, so again I just thought that would add a bit of interest underneath. But as I say, you can basically use any scraps at all, even old letters, shopping lists, anything that just adds a bit of interest. And I think when you start to tear the pieces up or cut them up, it takes it away from what it was originally, and it just adds a lot of interest. So that's my board with its first layer. Now you could stop there if you wanted, but I want to do more. So I remembered about the pieces of tissue, and I thought I would like to use those, but I also remembered I had these stamped tickets in there. I could have used these as a kind of top layer to give a bit of a focal point, but I thought, no, I want to put them down now because I want to have some of that tissue and deli paper as the kind of top layer. So I'm just kind of throwing these down, basically seeing where they land, looking at how the deli paper would look on top. And this time I'm just going to use the glue stick. They were printed with a distress ink a while back, and I thought if I use the wet glue, the distress ink might move. However, I think they were stamped so long ago that it's well absorbed into the paper that I probably would have got away with it, because I used some more matte medium on top, and it's absolutely fine. So I've got that in place. I'm looking at this sheet of tissue. Now sometimes I would tear tissue, sometimes I'd go round what I want to cut out just with some water and a paintbrush, but I wanted to try and keep this image whole if possible, so I decided just to cut it. Didn't do a particularly neat job of cutting, but I know that it will be fine because the tissue will actually disappear into the background, so you won't see the rough edges. So although I'm going at speed, I'm trying to be quite gentle with the tissue. I don't mind a little bit of buckling. I would have preferred not to, on this occasion, have it crumpled, and it turned out absolutely fine. So just looking at putting some other pieces on, sometimes tissue, sometimes deli paper, and again, this is just added interest. So, you know, whenever I'm doing any sort of stamping, I always stamp off onto scrap pieces of paper, onto deli, onto tissue, sometimes directly into a journal, just whatever I have to hand. So, you know, these were all sitting about, just waiting for a project like this in which I can use them. Now, I was going to say, if your interest is more journaling rather than doing this sort of thing, this is a great way to get some interest onto a journal page as well. So if you would prefer to do an art journal page, go ahead and do it. You can follow the same sort of technique. I've seen me do this across 2 or 3 pages at a time, just thinking, well, it's there as a base for next time, especially if I maybe don't have a lot of time to work on something in the future. If I already have a base there, it's quite good. So here, just taking that sheet of dictionary and where those stamped images were, I'm just putting them on the top now. Cutting 1 or more into 2, just because I want some to look as if they're kind of hanging off the page, and then I will just use the matte medium again to secure these. The page at this point still had a stickiness to it, so that they were kind of sticking, but I just want to make sure that they're fully adhered. And I think, you know, this is a bit like creating a mixed media page, but in this instance all I'm using is paper for collage, because I already had the stamped pieces of paper. Now, because I had that piece of purple underneath, I remembered I also had this piece of deli paper with, I think it was a stencil. I'd obviously used up some paint, and I thought I'll just add that because it's got that touch of purple which will just kind of coordinate with what's below. Now that's where when I'm working, I'm not thinking I'm looking for something to coordinate, but I just suddenly think, oh, I've got that, there's that there, so, you know, let me just add this on now. So it's not really conscious thinking in a way, it's more just kind of my subconscious thinking that might look quite good. So all I'm going to do now, I've given it a dry, and I'm just going to cut the little bits of overhang. I could have wrapped things directly round, but I was happy just to leave it at that. And that really is that Masterboard completed. Now, I was enjoying myself doing this, so I thought I want to use up some more pieces of paper and to use some of the tissue paper. So I decided what I would do here was to take a piece of plain deli paper and use it as my substrate this time. So again, I've put it down. It's difficult to see it this time, but you will start to see it in a minute. I've put a layer of the matte medium on it, and what I'm going to do now is just start putting down the pieces of tissue and deli paper, those that had kind of stamps on it, and I'm just going to start laying these down and layering them on. Doesn't matter if they go across a piece that's already there. All I'm trying to do is to create some interest. And I just thought with this that it would be nice to see how a layer of various transparent and semi-transparent things would actually work out. So again, basically covered most of the piece of base deli paper, and just starting to go over various bits here and layer up. And at the moment there's only a little bit of colour. So I'm going to take my pieces of tissue paper that I have, and I'm just going to start cutting some circles and seeing how they look. So cut them off camera, cut a few of them, and I'm just going to start to put these down, and you can see how the stamped images underneath are still showing through the tissue paper. So just adding some interest in terms of colour, but also seeing the stamped images through that. So here, just starting to layer some of the circles on top of the others, and I've not cut precise circles, just free-handed them. Again, cutting some into half so that they kind of hang off the page as well. It was difficult to see where my bottom layer started and finished, but that was okay. It didn't matter if it hung over the edge. So here's this other piece that had been stenciled at some time, and I thought I'm just going to put most of this down as one piece. Again, just about creating interest and seeing those various layers that sit underneath. And for me, that's always the interest in mixed media pieces, is being able to see things that lie further down in the earlier layers. So I decided I was just going to use up most of these bits that's lying around. I didn't use them all, but I did use most of them. And I'm not entirely sure what I'll do with this, but I'm going to enjoy using it for something. So there we go, my two finished pieces. I will probably just put some collage on the back of that piece when the time comes, but I'm pleased with it. I love the deli paper and the tissue paper on the top. Lots of colour in it, and who knows whether it will stay like that in future. I like that big image that's been a stencil at some point, but I also very much like this deli paper and tissue combination, and both sides have interest, and it's quite flexible, but it's actually feeling quite thick now. So yeah, I like the way it turned out. So if you're not in our Facebook group, no worries. I hope you will enjoy this project and give it a go anyway. So thanks very much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed it, and hope to see you again next time. So bye for now.